also the finding common ground. Now, I want us, rather than try to replicate things that have happened 50 years ago or 20 years ago, it's to see how can we apply those principles? Can those principles apply in current day? Because here we are in a generation and age where people are meeting online. Kifa met his wife maybe in church, maybe in, or I don't know, any whichever where he met his wife. Okay. Me
You
and my
know,
husband too, we kind of met in a fellowship.
no,
Okay.
listen,
So you
my wife,
find, and then in,
my neighbor, lived across the road from me, so I could
your
see
wife
her.
was your,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
So the point is, these are physical face to face meetings as
mm,
opposed to people meeting on LinkedIn, on
yeah,
Facebook,
yeah, yeah.
on dating apps.
Mm,
Right. So it's a whole different dynamic. But is
yeah.
it possible to still borrow some of those things so that we
Mm,
still have some of those ingredients that have made for a healthy um, and for a healthy relationship and for longevity in the relationship? But those are some ideas that we need to be thinking about too. Paulette says people live together first, then get married, then they try before they buy. The fear is removed. I don't know if this is true. I know this is logical, but the evidence does not necessarily suggest that. Plus, we need to also consider what we are trying before we are buying. Okay, because I mean, obviously, if you want to buy a car, it's good to test run it. It's good to decide, based on, does it
Size,
resonate?
color,
Yeah, size, based on
performance.
different things. Yeah. So, but when it
Temperament.
comes to commitment, no, because this has come up a number of times, right? And I know that there are those who believe that try before you buy is a good strategy and that it works and that it is the best way to do these things. But are we committing? Is this a commitment that is based on what you try? What do you do about the fact that maybe 1 year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, something that you didn't anticipate happens? Do you back out at that point? And if not, why not? Because I mean, what we're doing is try before we buy, right? So it needs to work out for me. It needs to be suitable to my needs. So if 3 years later things have changed, can I pull out? And if not, why not?
What you mean? Well,
Um,
this is, I think, Tolu, for us who believe in cohabiting, that's the word, right? Try before you call it, right? It is once you get to the stage of getting married, I think you have more chance of staying together because you know each other well enough, right? I'm not saying it's not going to go. It can't go wrong. Of course it can. But many who try before they buy never get married. Is the point, and they're the
right.
ones that you seem to focus on, which is fine. I'm saying, but those who do get married tend to stay together. As Keith was saying, essentially, if you know your wife or your partner for years and years, and you all grew up together. I've done many, and socialize together, go to church together, whatever it is that you do together.
Well, it's just like marrying your best friend.
It's a long time. And those who do actually then say,
That's what I
yeah,
see.
let's get married. They have more chance of being successful than those who.
How do you feel about buying a shirt, right? That has been tried before buying, say, 20 times?
Totally. What can you? It's a big question,
I'm just
isn't it? No,
saying.
no, 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 no.
Put
Look,
that out
it's a big question. Michael, I'll come to you next. I'll come to you in a second, right? I think it's.
I
there.
could answer that one. That's why there's a law,
You go for it.
right? In,
You
in
go.
God's law, there was a law. That's why back in the days, it wasn't cool to just sleep around. It wasn't cool. It was shameful, disgraceful. You'd hide and do it. Try before you buy, they say. Yeah, but you grow with each other. You don't just try and leave. You grow with each other. As young men growing up, we had girlfriends, kiss and cuddle and whatever. But guess what? When you make up your mind, to live your life and to start a family, you got to keep that real. You know, it's one woman, one man, you know, and you got to aim. You need ambition, you need faith, you need so much. You need to discipline, you need confidence, you need, you name it, to make it work. Because that's what it took.
Mhm.
Today, as I say, it's totally different. There's partners who are having children, no problem. They're living together for 20, 30 years before decide if they decide to get married. There's nothing wrong with it. But under God's law, you needed as I said in our last program, you need a license. That's why you get a marriage license. You know, you have a license before you go and try the car out. So you don't have an accident.
I'm gonna come to you. Look, there is an issue here. So there's an issue here, right? I think, I appreciate Tolu's point, and there are some people, and Keith is alluding to them. There's some people, we call them step families, right? We just call them so there's step families more and more these days. Reconstituted families where people break up from previous relationships and they have kids. It's a challenge. Let's not be kid ourselves, my friends.
Yeah, real, yeah.
That's one of our biggest fears. That's one of people's biggest fears. I mean, my wife and I do laugh at some of our friends and our neighbors. From a 4x2, for example, 4x4. That's a person with 4 kids from 4 different husbands, four different men.
Oh my goodness! What do you call that? 4x2 and 4x4. I was thinking dimensions. I'm like, okay, what's he measuring?
Some have 4x2. Literally, they don't know who the dad is. It's scared. Some people will tell you straight, I can't deal with step family. I can't be with someone who's already got kids.
Or taking a chance.
Yeah. And I just won't, and I won't do it. That's one of the greatest fears, I think, today.
Taking a chance.
And I think that there's something that I'm putting my hand up saying my generation maybe watered down some of the traditional thoughts of a marriage. Being a single mother became more accepted, became more the norm. Being a stepdad or stepmom, it became more the norm than maybe in Kiefer's time. Kiefer's on the side older than me, but I'm saying that I can see there was a shift in our mindset and how we saw relationships. Today I don't know whether that shift is what is going further for our kids. Because let me say, the kids today, Kiefer, as you said earlier, they have different ideas completely. And I got a 16-year-old. And he's telling me yesterday, my friends were saying, why haven't you had a girlfriend? I don't want one. I'm like, you do want one. You do want one. Learn to have some fun. Life is, because eventually you're going to have to have this relationship, surely. I don't know what, I say, and I'm sure our friends on stage will share with us what afflicts today's generation of kids.
Right.
Let's go there. Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say.
I said, let's go there. Let's hear from Michael, and then let's hear from Professor.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I know I came late, but I just want to say that marriage has no formula. There's no formula for marriage. But in today's world, though, there are so many things that scare people from getting married. By the way, I'm Roxana Zanakwe. I have been an educator, in case you don't know me. I have been married for 47 years. This is my 47th year being married. And I have 5 grown children. The oldest is turned 45. And just like that, the youngest is 35. And I have 12 grandchildren, and I'm still living with my husband. it's not easy to be married, but if you have to get married, you walk it every day. It's not just what you get in and walk out. You just marriage is good, but it's not easy. I can just tell you that. And that is the only place you get a certificate before you start trying. They give you a certificate, marriage certificate, before you get to try. It's not like you go to school when you graduate, you get a certificate. No, but you get a certificate before you before you start
It's
trying.
not just.
And
That's
by the
right.
way, so nowadays it's a different ball game though, because there are people I know people who are living for 30 years. They are not married. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. They are my good friends. They are good couples. They live together very well. I mean, I don't see any problem. I don't know why. I haven't asked them, even though they're my friends. I haven't asked them why you don't want to get married, even though you have lived for a long time, you have grown children. So I think there are those fears, though, because one of them one day told me that things about marriage, the parents divorced. The mother, I mean, the parents divorced when she was young. So I guess she feels safer being married, having children without being called a married woman. She doesn't really want to get into all the struggles of divorce. So there are so many fears. A lot of people fear divorce because their parents were divorced. Some people fear infidelity because maybe another one will just go where there are financial strain can be a big cause of marriage problems. So I think the first thing is when a couple want to get married, it's really important for the parents or anybody who can advise them to make sure they know uh, about their financial literacy. They can manage their finance and they can talk about it. One bad thing is when couples don't talk about finance, and you see somebody's spending the money belonging to the family. Well, okay, let me just tell a story. That's this lady that got married. They don't talk about finance, but she made all the money. Unfortunately, the husband had a girlfriend. Let me not call wife. Had a girlfriend and was dishing the money out to the girlfriend. And so she finally found out because she went to the bank one day to withdraw money and she didn't have any money in the bank. So that's a cause for divorce, though. But divorce won't solve that problem. They had children. And somebody was making the money, another person was spending it. So the most important thing in marriage is for both couples, whether they are married or not, to talk about money, to make sure they know where the ins and outs of their money. I mean, who is spending what, and so somebody has to be accountable for the money coming into the house. How is it going out? Okay. And there are so many other things, communication issues. I cannot tell you that my 47-year-old marriage is perfect, but I can tell you that we try to work on the communication. Another single thing that can make or break a marriage is communication. When you just live in the house and work like strangers and don't know what the other person is doing. I mean, okay, so, but it's not easy though. Even though you're married, somebody can still make you mad.
Very true.
Okay, so when I have taken too much time, let me know. But I can just say there are so many things changing dynamics in this real world now. Unrealistic expectation. Some people want to buy the kind of house that the Jones over there, Mr. Biggs bought a house and so on. Um, I just want all the expectations that people have now. So communication, financial strength,
So,
loss of
so yeah.
independence.
Okay, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, but those are now issues around the marriage, right? We're talking of the things that they are actually afraid of. The things
That's what
that
I'm
are
saying. That's what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that if their parents had problems like that,
Okay,
and
then
they
they
wouldn't
also
like to get into marriage, they don't want to get into marriage. Some of them
absolutely.
want to actually be um they will say this is my boyfriend and this is my girlfriend. They will just stay by the side, not getting
Mm.
married, not trying to tie the knots, but they are having children. I don't know which one is better, but the fears cause a lot of problems too. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
that is
But
my
I think we can link some of what you're saying, Prof, to fear of commitment. I think a lot of people don't want to take responsibility at all. But I think it starts where Keith was talking about it. Now, the money thing is the money is the issue, really, and people don't want to commit to sharing their money. Number one, I don't think they want to commit to working hard for the greater good. Are you with me? And as a young man, all I want to do is work, earn my money, and buy a stupid car or buy stupid cars and go out drink with my friends. Why do I want to get tied down to someone with whom it might go wrong anyway? Are you with me? That's it. No, and that's fear people have. And
well.
it's an increasing fear. I don't know whether the fear is rooted in a lack of self confidence. But I think a lot of people are all for themselves. The thought of someone of having to split the money if they get divorced. It's like, no, no, never. Look, I'll stop talking. Michael, I want to come to you next.
Family
See,
influence also. Family
yeah,
influence also. Yeah.
you
People
know,
look into what is happening in their family. Look at how the family are living, and
mm,
maybe swear not never to get married and see this kind of thing. So it depends. A
yeah,
whole lot of things can cause.
Right.
it really can. Again, now for years, Tulu, I had this thing in my head, which was every year we do a review, see how it goes, see how we are. If it's good, we carry on. If it's not good, then we don't carry on.
We don't carry on. No, that's not the only option. We can fix it.
Realize what a dumb thing to say, what a dumb way to think. But no, it gave me some sense of control, I guess. I can make a choice further down the line. I don't have to literally retire in something that's not working for me. And like I said, I wasn't right, and it's a young boy's stupidity, if you ask me. That's my take. Michael, let's come to you, my friend. Let's come to you.
Well, Annie, I think that young boy may have been right on the mark when it comes to if he was born a generation later. That is true. We do not want our parents' issues when we go into marriages. So we also know that these issues are uncontrollable. You don't know when they're going to show up or appear. You also know that if you're a believer, that spiritual entities can also interfere. It doesn't matter who you met, they will, regardless if they have if that person has issues with spirits on their side, or even if you have issues with spirits on your side, you can even generate some bad stuff as a result. But that's really deep out there.
Mm.
But right now, marriages are crumbling because people are fighting for independence. They want their financial independence. They want to be able to spend their money the way they can. Divorces are just like ugly. I mean, it's like you're going to war. They're like, we're in war here. These two people are fighting. They really want to tear each other down. They used to love each other, but now they just, wow, why do I want to do that? And then, why do I want to be like that guy's parents? Because you're also watching. Even if your parents are not having issues, you're watching the other parents and the other families. And you're also watching the family members around you who are also married, because they come with their own issues and bags of whatever issues that they carry around with them, and they dump them on your front door for you to pick up. Really? Is that going to be the rest of your life? Picking up issues, whether I create them or whether somebody else creates them? Is this really the kind of life I want to live for the rest of my life? Absolutely not. I mean, really, you have to think about what these kids are thinking about, and they're saying no. There are other options, and that's what they're implementing right now. Trying other options, trying to go down a different direction. I myself, I was married, yes. You know, now my ex, yes, she's gone down her field. Well, I'm blank, and I'm going down my field. And when I really think about who should I have married, someone I knew very well. That meant my best friend. I'll marry my best friend. And I'll try it first before I even get into it. Because I don't know. But all I know is that I can love my best friend and I'll go to battle with her, for her, and I'll stay irrespective. Because why? She's my best friend. She has my back, I have her back. But this marriage thing, it's the laws, the leaders that have created some ridiculous issues and laws and so on and so forth that have created a whole mess around marriage and how you should live your life and how you should be separated, and that's just decimated marriage as we see it today. Completely and utterly decimated it. So yeah, in the future you're probably not going to have things like marriage anymore. You're going to have cohabitation. There is no such thing as marriage. Get a marriage license, forget it. That's just going to be, it's just paper. Marriage license, just paper. What you keep in your heart, that's solid. And
Okay.
kids they have to start learning this from the very beginning, from the start. You got to teach them. If you taught them about marriage properly and how to actually create and achieve a great marriage right from the very beginning, you wouldn't have a mess like this. That's all I gotta say.
Well, thank you so
Thank-
much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael. So
Well,
I
well done everyone for not jumping in.
yeah.
They're all dying. But Tolu, please carry on.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I realize, you can even hear it from Michael. Michael, it's been many years, right? But the pain is still there. It's one of the challenges of many marriages, of many people, young people today, observing all this. I remember even when I was young, when I was contemplating marriage, teenage, early 20s, just thinking about, will I get married one day? I'd like to get married one day, and just observing my environment. Just these matters of heartbreak, of abandonment, of different families experiencing different bad and then worse situations, marriage situations, family dynamics because of divorce, because of relationships gone south. It used to scare me. I used to pray and say, God, I don't want to get married unless it's going to be a happy marriage. I remember distinctly, I used to pray that a lot, that Lord, I don't have to get married. But if I get married, I want to be happy. I want to marry my best friend. I want to marry someone that I can build a life with together. I don't want to tiptoe around in my marriage, be tense, be afraid. I want to be happy. And I think that God answered my prayer. I'm saying this because, Michael, what you've touched on, you've mentioned a number of very important things. You've talked of the spiritual aspects, the fact that we bring spiritual issues, if we are having individual spiritual issues, when we come into a marriage, they get more complicated. So do seek help if there are spiritual issues that may be sometimes in families, in different, we have different ways of experiencing these things. And if you know they're there, don't ignore it, because in a marriage, it gets worse. Also, the issue of teaching people, I don't agree that marriage is going to be wiped out. I don't think so. I think I understand how you would think so, but I don't think so. I think that there are some marriages that are doing very well, in spite of the fact that, yeah, the laws sometimes make it very difficult to navigate, and the laws in some countries more than others. But the bottom line is that marriage is inherently good. My take on marriage as a person, I'm not speaking now as a marriage coach, I'm speaking as a person who has been married for 20 something years, 21 going on 22 years, is that you cannot really and truly be happily married if you're not willing to be selfless. If you choose to be selfish, if you go into marriage thinking of you and what you want, what's in it for you, and it's about you, and then you have a spouse who's doing the same, you guys will kill each other. Marriage can be devastating to people who are selfish. And we may not be selfish because we think we're selfish. We're just selfish in the way and in our outlook, we just want what we want and we like what we like, and we're not willing to back down because this is how it is, and this is what I want. And it's that attitude many times that ends up getting us into a very bad place. And if you have one person who's selfish in the marriage, usually that's enough to make everything go south. So we need to be taught, I agree with Michael, that we need to be taught what marriage really is and what marriage really can be on both sides, so that we understand what we're getting into, what we need to do or be willing to do to help the marriage to grow on both sides. Because if we don't do that, if we just go in hoping for the best, doing what we like, doing what some rom-com says we should do, we may find that, like Professor Roxana says, there's no one formula, quite all right, but there are things that we will do that will make the marriage go down very fast, that will make the relationship fall to pieces very fast. And we need to know some of those things and be guided more and better so that we have healthier relationships. We don't have to let ourselves go to that point where we fall to pieces. And what happens? The children that are born to those relationships have to pick up the pieces and keep on going with that pain even long after we are gone. And it doesn't have to be like that. But thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for sharing your insights. Let's see. I think we had Lois. Is she still here? I don't know who this is.
Lewis is still here, so
Okay.
we're going to go to her next. I think Paulette's comment is worth looking at. Now, Paulette says,
Okay.
breaking marriage cycles, breaking the fears we observe in families. Different religions have different cultures. They don't allow marriage outside of the culture, so you end up marrying someone you don't love.
That's another.
But some of those do last, and they do last. That's why they carry on doing them. Sometimes it does. They can cause misery to you. I agree with that. But many do. Many achieve the purpose. I think maybe at the heart of these fears is asking, what is our why? What do we really want? I think so as you were talking earlier today, I was thinking, right. A lot of people want that Romeo and Juliet moment, the Romeo and Juliet existence. Roses being tossed at you. Oh, Romeo, my everything. I'm saying I've never watched Romeo and Juliet. Clearly, you can tell that, right? But I know the rough story. I'm saying, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't. The honeymoon period disappears very quickly, right? And people. Even this swipe left, swipe right thing mentality that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it wrong? Clearly, it's not going to work. But go on, Tony, please. What's your take?
Well, I don't know if is it wrong. The thing is, current day, I mean, after COVID especially, but generally, because of the way technology has advanced, the way the world has become more of a global village, it's not surprising that those options are available or that those are developed as solutions to meet a need. Now, remember that people used to meet in the town square or meet in the, city center or things like that. People had all these interactions that were more of a communal kind of living at a time. But as life has advanced, as things have changed, as societies have become more, would I call them metropolitan, maybe? People have found it more, it's becoming less and less common to meet people, to just have a regular social life. Like the options are fewer as we're building more and more virtual lives, as we're building lives in the virtual space. So you find that it's not surprising that those options now come up. Are they effective? Are they helping to achieve the desired goal? Now, this is a question that I'm sure sociologists would probably be working on, but it's important to understand that the goal is supposed to still be the same. Family stability is not something you can run on the internet. It's not something you just, will be sending emails to each other, husband and wife, and then downloading breakfast for the children. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Having the
Right?
opportunity to work with the
Sorry.
We're going to have to face one another and live in one another's spaces. And that is a reality that I don't think we're going to lose. So we need to understand what the place of that kind of meeting is and whether it is achieving the desired goal. Because if you meet on a dating app, you still have to meet face to face. You still have to develop that relationship face to face, I think, to be able to decide, yes, I'm ready to marry. If all you've done is meet on a dating app, meet at some diner, and then decide to get married, you don't know each other. And that relationship is standing on very shaky ground. But yeah, interesting conversation so far. So for those who are just joining us, we're still talking about fears around marriage, particularly for young people. What are the things that are scaring them? What are the things that are making them hold back? Maybe, afraid to get married, afraid to get into a marriage relationship. Now, we've mentioned some of the fears, but others are still coming up in the conversation. And I think Lois was going to contribute to the conversation. Please go ahead, Lois.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Loes Pijpers from the Netherlands. And greatest fear about marriage is speaking about something deeply personal and universal at the same time. Marriage is often seen as a beautiful commitment, but it can also stir up powerful fears. One of the biggest fear is failure. The thought of divorce or a broken relationship looms large. Studies show nearly 40 or 50% of the marriages is in some countries end in separation. And in the Netherlands, you see 1 of the 3 marriages end in separation. That's quite often. And another fear is losing yourself. Many worries that marriage means sacrificing their identity, dreams of freedom. And I think in a marriage it's important that you are a personality yourself, and you don't have to become a sort of copy of one another, and you can have your own hobbies and your events or going out. But if you have a strong relationship and something that binds you all together, and you have good conversations together, then bond you have is strong, I think. So you don't have to give everything up when you're in a marriage. Um, but I think staying in conversations with each other is important about finance and sorry, about everything. And there is the fear of unknown. No matter how well you know your partner, life throw curveballs, financial stress, health issue, or unexpected changes. Can we face it together? That's important. The uncertainty can feel overwhelming. And when you start your marriage and you're happy or you're healthy, both, then everything is going to be okay. But if you are facing health issues, some partner will be sick or have a sick family member, and you have to care for them, then there comes pressure and on the marriage, and it's important that you stay strong for each other, and then you can show your partner that you are always there for them. So it, it's not only success, sharing with each other, but also going through hard times, and then you can have a strong bond. I think it's very important to be there for one another. Marriage isn't about being fearless. It's about facing those fears as a team together, and that's very important, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Los, I think is how you pronounced it. Thank you so much for that share. Very, very important points that you've raised. And yes, I think that's actually a lot of what we are dealing with when people are looking at marriage. I mean, just the fear of failure is actually scary. If you think of an exam where in your environment, like in the US, it's like a 50%, sometimes even less, success rate, then you start feeling like, if I'm to apply for this exam, if I'm to write this exam, what are the chances that I will do well? If in the Netherlands you're saying 33%, I know that in Africa, well, we tend to have better outcomes, but then again, what is the quality of the relationship? How many people are staying married just because it's more embarrassing to get a divorce, or culturally they would have difficulty, they will have challenges with getting accepted, and so they just stay? So it's one thing to be counting how many people are divorced. It's another thing to be measuring the quality of the relationship, and people are genuinely and legitimately afraid of some of these things. So we need to look at, what do we do to prevent these things? Because if we say, for example, one of the things you mentioned is life throwing curveballs at you. If you don't get married, life will throw curveballs at you. It's not something that's unique to married couples. Life happens. So the question is, would you rather be alone when life throws its curveballs, or would you rather be with someone who you're in a committed relationship, to face that kind of situation? Those are some of the things. I think a lot of these fears, let's talk a bit about fear. Generally, we've talked of different things that we are afraid of, different reasons why people are afraid. And of course, they're all legitimate. There's no baseless fear, right? There's evidence out there. There are reasons why we should be afraid. But you see, fear generally, if you understand fear is, some use the acronym false evidence appearing real. This is not false evidence. You've seen evidence. There's evidence to justify the things you're afraid of. But why is somebody described as brave or as courageous? Someone was describing love, and I loved it just listening, because it just, how you have these ideas in your head and you're not sure how to put them into words, and then somebody just captures it so beautifully. And was talking of how love is so risky. It's so risky to actually put your heart out there and to to make this commitment to another human being. Even if it's your child, it's risky to love a child. What if the child dies on you? What if they hate you tomorrow? What if they, there's so many what ifs in life. It's risky to love a dog or a cat. I have a cat. It's risky to love it because you're going to get so fond of it. It's going to be part of your daily life. It's the first, when I open my door, my cat is the first to greet me, right? It just meows and it's just such a sweetheart. But one day that cat is going to die. And that's risky. I don't want to have to deal with that. So maybe I shouldn't even have a cat. I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want to have to one day cry, and I know I will cry. We've cried and done burials for rabbits, right? We had rabbits and we did a whole burial ceremony, and my husband was trying his best not to laugh, and me and the kids were actually crying because and yeah, okay. But that's risky. I'd rather not do that. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of pain. And that's what it is, that we're afraid of the pain and the hurt that can come. I don't want to commit to somebody and then find out that they're stashing their money away somewhere and making some alternate plans somewhere, 15 years into the journey. I don't want to find that kind of thing out and feel like all these years I've been trusting someone who doesn't trust me. I don't want that. So it's better not to even get there, I don't want to find out that somebody has, some alternate affair, some alternate relationship somewhere. I don't want that. So let's just avoid it. Lock our hearts, lock our, no access, zero. Nobody can hurt me. The sad thing and the harsh reality is that the same door that opens to love opens to hurt.
Yeah. So let me add quickly, please. Let me add quickly. See, in days gone by, and in some cultures, they do what I've done when faced with these fears, these realities that it could go wrong. One may die, one could die, and one could get ill, as Luz mentioned, right? See, my solution, because I'll talk about my pets. That's a perfect example. My solution was to get two of everything: two dogs, two cats, two fish. That way, if one dies, if one goes, then I still got the other one.
And if both die,
they won't both die. That's unlikely.
What if it's some kind of poison?
My pets have never both died. It's the same way, you can lose two wives at once.
So you want to get two wives? Oh, so is she allowed to get two husbands?
That's what I'm saying. No, but that's how the dealt
Oh.
Maybe the issue is monogamy. I'm just saying. I'm saying maybe that's the issue, because polygamy, since it worked in the past, right? That's how people defended themselves against these what ifs. What if she leaves me? Oh, I got the other one. I got the other
No,
five.
but that's the man defending himself against. So what? How did the women in that scenario?
Women have done it. Women have had multiple.
No. I'm saying this man marries 3 wives or 4 wives or 5 wives.
Yes.
So that even if one dies, he's still fine.
He can sleep. He can sleep knowing that he will have a wife tomorrow. Come here,
yes, it works for him.
Yeah.
But what is their backup? These women in that same marriage, if he dies. Like, it's a completely selfish way to look at things.
It is. I'm digging a hole.
Right. So that's the problem with that. So we've talked about selfishness. When you go into marriage, you go in, 1, it's an act of faith. 2, it's an act of courage. So a lot of the work needs to be done before you get married. But when you choose this person, when you make this commitment, there are things that it's not an irresponsible, irrational, pie in the sky, by and by, I love this person. And no, there are serious conversations to be had. there are serious conversations to be had, there are serious commitments to be made. And then, as a person of integrity, you stick with your commitment. So, this is what it's meant to be. And it's not really, yeah, we talk about the laws and the land and the certificates and the licenses, but beyond that is you.
Mm.
And that's it. At the end of the day, what is your commitment? And then there is God. There is God, because somebody created us. Somebody, we started somewhere, whatever your belief system is, we started from somewhere. And there's a reason why we're not all the same. We could all have been one type of person. We could all have been one gender, for example. But then how do we reproduce? How do we procreate? So somebody thought of it and figured it out and created us in the way that we are. So when we try to fix things in the middle and we don't go back to the beginning, it's part of the problem. We have to think about, where are we coming from? Where did this all begin? Otherwise, we keep developing solutions somewhere in the middle of the way that are not working because we haven't really come in contact with the beginning. So we must think about that. Where did we begin? Where did all this begin? Where did we start from? What is the point? And these are some of the things. It's deep thinking. There's a lot involved that we need to think about. There's some comments here.
Yeah. Let's welcome some people, and then I know Keith is keen to say something. When Keith begins forward, it means he's ready to share some wisdom. Now, Tolu, look, as we welcome people and go through some of the comments,
Mhm.
I don't think divorce is necessarily a bad thing. And I'm gonna, you can shoot me anyone can shoot me if you want, right? Now, here's my point. I think many people sort of almost they sleepwalk in their marriage until it breaks up, right? Because someone or both are unhappy. I don't think, I think when it comes to that being a fear, I think we can take a more realistic, a more sensible look at what separation means. It doesn't always mean, we don't always have to have that war that Michael talked about. It doesn't need to be acrimonious. It doesn't need to be. I think no, but I think we've come to accept that a breakup must be traumatic for everyone. That sometimes just it's people choosing to have a more happiness in their lives. If marriage isn't working, I'll find happiness in a different way with a different person. I don't. Why is that so bad? Like, when my car breaks down, look, I get another one. When pet dies, I get another one. Right? So when things happen, we get other ones. Why isn't it the same with marriage? Really? It's a genuine question. If anyone wants to go for it, then please do. So before you do, let me welcome Joni. How you doing, Joni? Glad you're here. Hope we get to meet afterwards, Joni. So as Dr. Lisa's joined us as well, menopause. I say, and as I welcome Dr. Lisa, I say I'm well aware that menopause and that midlife is often the time when breakups happen, and that's when we say it can happen to anyone. Now, let's, so my understanding is that is in midlife, when the woman and the man going to andropause or menopause. You find a lot of people, a lot of women walking away. Is that a bad thing? I'm not sure. I don't know, because it doesn't mean a life of misery forever. It really doesn't mean a life of misery. Some people find
So it's
happiness.
like use
in
and
it.
dump.
No. I think it's more about trying to find your joy. Because you've done the marriage thing, so you know what your husband or your wife is like. And what's wrong with saying, "I deserve more happiness"? Really, it's a straight question.
What's wrong with saying what?
I want more happiness. I deserve more happiness. I've been miserable for a long time. I want my, why stay together for what? Now you mentioned the cultural and spiritual and religious reasons earlier, right? I'm saying a few minutes ago. I'm saying no, don't do that. Separate. Find your happiness. Find your joy. If
As
that's
you say, Annie,
please.
it's true. It is true that there are a lot of people who married second time round often say they found true love.
Yeah.
And you see, there's a difference between lust and there's a difference between love. And sometimes just take a fling, and before somebody say, "Oh, I fall in love with you," till the first thing happened, then they fall out. Yeah, but it is true that some people say in the second time round they find their true love, because we, as Tulu was saying, even though we didn't mention it all the way, domestic violence is one of the big things that cause people to break up and remarry and find happiness. Abusive marriage, there's a lot of it's going on. There's sexless marriages. There's so much is happening that cause breakup today, and yet some people go on to find happily ever after. Yeah, and it's in the Bible too. Give him a bill of divorce if so. So it was part of the law too. It wasn't just been, by all means, love with everything, but if it can't work, give him a bill of divorce. But you see, the thing is, one thing nobody ever mentions is that if you divorce, you were supposed to stay single, because that becomes another problem, right? Adultery.
Well, so
See,
that's again,
it's going deeper, right? Let's not go there.
and that is not a matter of which faith you profess.
Exactly. So it goes on and on.
But
Proper
the thing
loose. If
is,
you
I
want to
do
act,
agree that with any that divorce is not necessarily the worst outcome, in the sense that it's certainly better than killing your spouse. There are people who would kill their spouse to get out of the trap that they consider their marriage to be, and that is by far worse.
that's
So
never. How is that ever an answer to it? I don't know what. How can anyone think? Oh, I know how to solve this problem. I will kill the other one. It's a
what?
one-way ticket to jail forever.
But well, that's if you get caught, right? They usually in that moment don't think
They all
they'll
get
get
caught. They all get caught. They
Let me-
all get caught.
Annie, and can I please leave for some time? Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you, Prof.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Sharing
Tolu.
your
Thank
genius.
you so much, Professor Oksana.
Thank
So the thing is the fears and the overwhelm that people experience in marriage can be so real that they lose their minds. And in that case, that person they're not thinking straight, because you can't be thinking straight and think that you walk up to someone and say, "Please, I'd like to have your daughter to spend the rest of my life with," etc., etc. You go through the whole process, you get married, you have children, and at some point you want out and you think the solution is to take their life. Something has gone wrong, terribly wrong. So rather than wait until things get that bad,
You've lost your mind if that happens. And you're free.
rather than wait till, but you know what, that it's a picture of how trapped the person feels. Whether they feel it rationally or irrationally is another matter. But what I'm saying is marriage matters can get so intense, can be so toxic, that people can do such horrible things. And I think that it's important that we focus on the health of the relationship, to the extent that it's just like being healthy in your body, right? You do things to keep healthy. You try to eat healthy, you try to exercise, you try to hydrate, you go for your medical checks from time to time. You should do that for your marriage as well. We should all do that for our marriages. There are things that you may not even realize, even those breaks that you take to sit down with your spouse and say, "Hey, am I doing okay? Is there anything you'd like me to do differently?" Those are ways to help your relationship to stay healthy, as opposed to waiting until things go so bad, piling things up, sweeping things under the carpet, dealing with those fears, internalizing them, not doing anything until things get so bad. This is one of the things that I think we should please seek help with. Please don't hesitate. Reach out for help. Don't do this. Don't kill anybody. Don't let anybody kill you. And
Have you seen Joni's suggestion? I mean, Paulette says cut bits off. You know what Paulette's like, right? Cut it off.
yeah,
Cut it
that's,
off.
we stopped that last year. Last year we dealt with that.
No,
We
it's it.
don't,
No, Paulette still believes it.
we don't cut anything off
Joni,
anymore.
Joni believes it too. She's saying, no, cut a limb off.
Joni, no, 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 no.
I like that. I like that.
How do I
Wendy,
delete
well,
these comments?
Joni, the StreamYard link is on the event page, or it's in your DM. You know, go back and look above the link, and then you say you find the StreamYard link. Wendy, I'm glad we're on the same page. Divorce is not a bad thing; it's a process of evolution. To me, I agree. That's my point. I agree. We'd rather not divorce, but sometimes it is. It's an answer to a situation that we can't change, that we can't fix. Even like you said earlier, Tulu, if one person gives up on the marriage, what can you do? Not much, right? You kind of, you're in a bind. Michelle, welcome. Said Michelle Ramos. I'm glad you're back in the land of doing. Again, I'm gonna run after you and hopefully find you later. We've got work to do, right? So the hardest separation is when letting go of who you used to be to accept who you are becoming. And it's so true. It's so like I said, the fact that many women just get fed up around menopause. They're just like, nah, no more, and that's as men. It can be a bit of a shock, but all the things we talk about, Tulu, it's taken years to build up that frustration, that annoyance, that anger, that decision. So we need to be more mindful on the journey. Who's LinkedIn user? LinkedIn user says, cut it off. Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Oh dear.
So you're I don't know where no, that's not showing on my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We're not chopping bits off.
Michael is talking. We're not chopping anything off. Michael talks about the fact that divorce is quite widespread in certain communities. Sorry, I don't know.
From the bedroom.
Divorce. What's going on?
No, sorry. My wife is doing lovely things and disturbing my peace. Go on. Sorry, Tulu.
Hey, when it comes to your wife, we accept. You can go. You can attend to her, please. This is very important to us.
So cool. So cool.
So Michael was sharing something about divorce, right? And the fact that it is quite widespread and almost like commonplace in certain climes. And I think that's one of the things we also need to understand, that environment really affects us in more ways than we realize. You need to be careful with each of us. If your goal is, for example, to have a healthy, happy marriage, and you're constantly in an environment where people talk like divorce is the in thing or is not a big deal, it will affect how you think. It will affect how you perceive your marriage, whether you like it or not. It will be a factor. So you find that in areas, in communities, in societies where staying married is respected and regarded as the norm and as more acceptable, you'd find that people would tend towards that. But then if you're in a place where it's less acceptable, you would just tend towards that. So you find it's the same reason why what do they call this ideology now? This women's liberation mindset and all that. It tends to make women think a certain way, that makes them act a certain way in a marriage, that makes it more difficult to stay married, and all that. So we need to be careful about even what we feed our minds, what we accept as okay, what we choose, that you're consciously choosing what your outcomes are rather than just being part of a production line because this is what's happening in the environment where you find yourself. It takes a lot more to stay married these days in some areas than it does to get divorced. Okay, so anyway, I think we should probably be winding down because we can't really finish unpacking the matter of fear. But whatever your fears are, whether you're dealing with fears in terms of approaching marriage, and I have fears of my own when I think of younger people, right? I have fears around like How do they meet? How do you develop good quality relationships? How do you not just stay in that space of being a worker, connecting with people about work, work, work? What about relationships? Even on LinkedIn, I look at some young people, I'm wondering, do they have social lives? Do they meet with people? Do they get to meet someone and choose a life partner? I hope this is not all they're doing, but those are things that I wonder about sometimes. Yeah. So anyway,
I've got something to say. A little
sorry, please
something
hold
to
on.
to
Hold
to
on a
add.
second, Michael. Hold on, Michael.
Okay.
Please let's quickly hear from Joni and then we'll hear from you. Thank you. Yeah,
Hi,
Joni. Hey, welcome.
how is everyone? I'm so glad I was able to come back to make this. Just doing a few things that I was limitedly allowed to with my kids. So don't even ask about that. That's the power of divorce. The kid thing is horrible. And so I don't recommend it just for the kids, but I recommend it for you spiritually. And honestly, it can make you feel a better version of you instead of like being like shut down by another person. And so clearly, like, I know by friends and my own parents, like, that they have great relationships and they work at it. And during tough times, like, my parents will sit in front of the fireplace and have a glass of wine and talk because my dad's not a big talker. And like, they have such a wonderful marriage. And so I kind of thought that's what I was getting into. But I was 22, he was 21. You grow so much. I'm 43 now. Like, it was a terrible marriage. I just wanted to have kids. He just wanted to make money. And it was not a great marriage. And it's still, we're not great co-parents. And that hurts me really deeply. That hurts me more than anything. But I'm going to bring it back to the positive. And you know what? I have met so many people in my same situation through this, who just, they're good people who just like kind of started off too young or started off in the wrong foot, and have become really good friends because I'm always the friend.
Joni, how
And
much experience do you
also,
have?
like, sex is really important. And so if you're not getting that at your relationship, like, you have to have the courage to talk to them about that, because that's such a really, uh, he- like a very basic human need to have sex. And so, and that's okay. That's okay for you to want that. That's not a bad thing. That's not shameful. And and yeah, divorce lets you got a lot of different sex, but we'll talk about that another time. And but anyways, I do not encourage it if you have any smidge of love left, and especially if you guys have kids, like, it's really difficult. But ultimately, like, if you're not meant to be with that person, then and they're holding you back from being who you are. My ex certainly did do that. His career took off, and my career, I had more education than him, and I was just at home with the kids. And that was my choice too, admittedly. But, I feel so much like more resounding as a human being now. And, I don't also care as much about what people think, because I'm just like, 43, okay, whatever. And but dating, also, it has changed. So I've been divorced 9 years. I've 7 years, like, fully official. No, 8 years fully officially. But when I started on the apps like 9 years ago, Holy cow. Everyone was so much easier to get along with. And now, I'm single. I try to have a conversation with someone, and it's like 5 days later, maybe a response, and maybe they X me out because I'm 43, and like I'm like, yeah, I look better than the 23-year-olds out there, right? So, but it has changed. It has really changed the whole dating situation. So beware of that. Like it's very hard, and beware of if you have an affair with someone. I did not. That's not going to work out. That's just not. It's not going to work out. They had an affair with you, then you're always going to be thinking that they're going to have an affair with someone else, and blah blah blah. And so, anyways, that's just my 2 cents. I'm not the career marriage counselor here, so yeah, I just wanted to say hi and wish you well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joni. Thank you for sharing.
Well,
And yeah, I can. Oh, did I? Okay.
you're
You're
good.
Yeah.
fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much. I can imagine, the that this is what it is, right? Divorce is not our favorite option. Nobody really likes it. We can make it seem like, oh, it's really fancy and it's a good idea. We don't like it. So what can we do to avoid it? I'm not advocating staying in an unhappy marriage. What I'm saying is that, look, these fears are real, these hurts are real, but we can deal with them. It's just like we don't say, oh, this person is so sick, let's kill them off. This person is this car is looking like it has a flat tire and the engine doesn't seem so good. Let's burn it up. Like, that's not the first thing we do. The first thing we do is seek someone who can fix it, who can help, right? And better than that is even to buy a car that we know we can manage. It's kind of like in
Reliable.
Nigeria. So we tend to think of, when we want to buy a car, we tend to think of fuel economy. We tend to think of where the spare parts are available, because it's new right now, but then down the line it's going to be older. And when it gets older, we're going to want to make sure that we can get it fixed, that we can get the best out of it. So those are things that we don't think about when we're getting married. We just think, oh, I love her, she has curves, and I love him, he's macho and he's this, and he has a good job, or he has 6 packs, or I don't know, 2 packs, or whatever number of packs.
Six
And
packs are really good. I mean, like you gotta see that again. You gotta see that again as a grown woman. You're like, yo, look at that.
Okay.
Look at that body. Oh my god.
Six
Oh
packs
my
of
god.
beer.
I'm sorry. It is nice. It's nice for the evening.
Okay.
It's not everything, obviously.
But many times those 6 packs would reduce to 5, to 4, as age goes, it tends to happen. So the point is, beyond
Not in
that,
us divorced people. We got to keep it up.
Journey. Okay. Okay. But beyond that, right? Beyond, even now, even as a divorced person who hopes maybe to meet someone else and marry, maybe, you want to think longer term. You don't want to just think of now and how I feel now and how we look now. And then you also want to think of what's the purpose. And you also want to think of the next generation. What are we modeling for the next generation? So we have to not think of it like acting a drama, like we want to make sure things are prim and proper so that the next generation likes what they see. No, if it's not real, they would know it's not real. We want to make sure that, look, what are the ingredients for a healthy, happy relationship? Okay, if I don't know them, somebody put in the chat, I think it was Michelle, I think, that was saying we need to
Hello.
extend grace
Can I
on
tell
who
you
are.
a fact?
Sorry, hold
Oh,
on a second. Hold on a second. We need to
okay.
extend grace to people who do not come from healthy backgrounds or healthy marriage backgrounds. And yes, there's that. But if you understand that look, I don't really know the things I need to know for this marriage I want to get into. I need to get the knowledge. I need to get the help. I need to get the support that I need for this. It's better to do that than to hope for the best with what we have, and then it doesn't work out, and then we start to, hurt one another and hurt other people. I think that we can do better. We can do a preemptive, seek counsel, seek the right information, so that we have a better chance at a healthier marriage. Okay.
I like that. Now let's go back to Michael. Michael, you've
Yes,
left
Michael.
some very long comments, and you're here, so you might as well share with us what you're thinking, my friend. Michael, come back. Michael, where have you gone? Unmute. You have to unmute. I'm sure I didn't mute you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay. I wanted to share that, there's certain things that Toulouse touched with respect to environment. There are, in environment, you have people, and people have values, and your values need to match those people's values. Looking for a mate, you need someone who shares the same values you do. Here in California, I ran into a situation where there are two personnel who I have to address as them. I cannot address them as her, and I cannot address them as him. This is it's a non-gender addressing thing. This is just something I've run into for the first time ever, and I'm having difficulty applying it. But I cannot address them as him, her, his, any of those gender type specific things when addressing them in any situation. So you can imagine my confusion, and also on top of that, you can imagine how on earth am I supposed to move forward like this? Because now you have to also wonder to yourself, what kind of values are they going to, or what kind of, if they go into a marriage, the marriage will be the same way, right? But then question would be, if they're genderless, what, are they of two genders? I don't get it. Or is it just one gender that we're talking about? So
I think
that's also something that's going to be coming up.
Right. Definitely, it's an issue that has come up, particularly, especially I think in the West, especially probably in the United States, it's loudest, but it's also there in different places, and will probably be something that we all need to take a stance on. For me, I like to keep my life simple, and I know that there are some things that become too complicated if we don't stay grounded. Okay. Life is really not hard. It's not that difficult. Male and female have always been the only two genders. Anybody else wants to call themselves anything else, they have the freedom to call themselves what they like. But I understand it as male and female. And for me, if somebody decides that they are multiple people, there's an example in the Bible of somebody who was called Legion, and it's because he had multiple demons that possessed him. Okay, that is it's a spiritual situation. Michael has talked about spiritual, and I do believe that there are spiritual situations, there are spiritual entities, and if you decide that you want to engage them and you want to now be named by them, it means such a person probably needs help, and they are under the influence of something that is beyond them. But what we taught children when we were small has not changed. There's a boy, there's a girl, there's a man, there's a woman, and anything else that anybody else wants to say, no matter how big they are, no matter how loud they are, a lie is a lie is a lie. The truth is the truth is the truth. That's all there is to it. So for me, if you bring that my way, I will tell you the truth. If you don't bring it my way, I don't have to look for your trouble. Don't look for mine. But that's where I stand on that one. So it's not confusing to me, is what I'm saying.
Irrespective, change is coming.
Standing and saying that to me, I think they're confused, and I feel for them, but I'm not going to be confused by them.
Keith, look, so I think that it'd be good to sort of go where Toulouse going. Like Janice, I'm not sure I mentioned you. Welcome, Janice. If I miss you, I'm really sorry. Glad you're here, of course. Mohammed Sassu John is here as well. welcome, sir. Glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. I mentioned Wendy. I don't like not to mention everyone. Cut it off. Who's that? Who is that? LinkedIn user, please put your name in the comments. Let us
I
know
did put his name in the comments, or her.
who was it.
It was an African name.
Okay, well,
I
Tamilola.
did put it in the comments.
Tamilola. Okay.
I did, but whatever.
Thank
It's
you,
okay.
thank you, Jody. I can see it now. I didn't see it because it's further down.
Okay. Yeah.
Rami, welcome, my brother. Good to see you. Glad you're here. You know, how do we tackle these fears? What do we do about them? It's the question Tulu asked. I guess
Yeah.
now for all this word from my side, Keith, I'll come to you next, my friend. You know, Luz, if you want to add, then please do flash your mic. If you flash your mic, come live, and I'll bring you to speak. So, now, Tulu, for me, I think it's having love in your heart. I don't know how you teach that. You know, I think it really is having love in your heart. That's where it comes from. You know, say if we don't find love for partners, love for our families, love for what we created, love for the unit, our family unit, it's very hard to work through troubles and challenges when they come. You know, I think who mentioned? I think it was Joni. You know, literally finding the love in your heart to want to do good for each other, want to talk, want to resolve any problem. You know, want to have fun, want to be happy, and I want to be happy. I think that's where most of the fears will go. You know, maybe the fears will never go. Maybe we work through things together. You know, the weird thing is that the longer we're together, the longer we're going to be together. Strange that. And those who call quits and jump early never give themselves that chance to work through the problems that life throws at you. I'm not saying again. Sometimes you do have to get out. I get that, but most of the time, it's a choice we have to make. I think so. We have to choose to commit. We have to choose to be in this marriage together. We have to choose to be together and choose to make it work for all of us. Not I say both of us that, but the kids come in and the pets come in as well. And unless we make that choice deliberately, intentionally, and with our heart, we're almost gonna, the fears that what we fear is gonna come true. Sadly, that's my take anyway. So, so Michael, and I'm with you on this one. Michael says, Jen and I, literally till death do us part. It's part of their argument. You know, that's why they killed, because they argue that they're temporarily insane. Michael never worked. To death do us part. Killing the other one is never the answer. Killing anyone is never the answer to any problem. It's a one-way ticket to jail. That's all it is. Eva.
Yes, very interesting, everyone, conversation this evening. But loneliness is real. That is a big part. People are lonely. I mean, if you just surf the net, you see people are talking to AI robots. They're trying to find relationship with a robot if they have to. Anybody to talk to. There's nothing nicer than somebody who lives alone, who's hurting or divorced, or somebody giving them a call just to check in on them, see how they are, see how they're doing. And it's a shame really that there's so many people in the world, and yet sometimes we can't find one person to share our love and to share our life with. As I sat here and think, because I read the Bible now and then, and David, a man after God's own heart. As Annie was saying, maybe we need more than one wife. He had 27 wives. His son had 700 wives and 300 concubines. I'm saying, well, I wonder how he got on. What was his fear? Why so many? So, but I
How
think
many
we can be
nights are there? Jeez Louise.
yeah, he had 700 wives and
No
300
way.
concubines.
Can't believe
But
it.
today, we only need one woman, one wife. And if we share our love commitment, respect, communication, we can go a long way. As long as you make up your mind to build together, it's possible. There's a saying, teeth and tongue will always cross. They all will always cross. But guess what? You get on, let bygones be bygones. Kiss and make up and live another day. Tilu.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Kifa. The thing is, we need to decide what we want. I think for the most part, many times we don't really decide what we want, and we don't count the cost of what we want. There is a cost. A good, healthy marriage is not some automatic thing that you press a button and get.
For the work
If you
at it.
see a couple that have been married 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years, 60, somebody said 63, right? 63 years, 70 years, whatever, that have been married, stayed together, they have worked. They have worked on themselves. They have worked on learning, growing, on, they've learned patience, they've learned tolerance, they've learned forgiveness, they've learned to overlook certain things, they've learned to confront issues that others maybe would sweep under the carpet. They've learned to move on. They've learned to become friends. They've learned to accept each other. It is work. And it is working on yourself, because self does not want anybody else to win. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever been confronted with something and you know the correct answer? You want to just put your foot down, and we all have that thing in us that wants to win, that wants to be in charge. But then in the marriage relationship, sometimes you will back down. The man will back down sometimes, the woman will back down sometimes, for peace to reign, for the other person to win this time, for just being the better person, for the long haul. Because this is not just about this. This is a long journey. We can't fight every battle. We won't sweat the small stuff. We'll choose us over winning. And these are things that are not easy to do by yourself sometimes. Sometimes we'll make wrong choices. Sometimes we'll say things we shouldn't have said. We will come back and we'll say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this. Okay, how can I make it up to you? And we will find a way and we will start again. Sometimes you will forgive in advance, knowing that this, my husband, is the type of person who will do this. Okay, fine. I'm expecting it. He'll probably do it. Okay, I'll forgive you. Okay, how can I help him so that he doesn't do it again the next time? He will forgive her, he will forgive me. How can he help me so that I don't do that the next time? And you find that each of you is getting better because you are choosing to grow together. This is not easy stuff. They say marriage is not for the faint-hearted. It really isn't. It really isn't. And will we make mistakes? Yes. And is it risky? Yes. But is it worth it? Yes. Okay. I think we should wrap it up on that note to be continued.
Germany, Luz, if you ever want to add anything.
Yeah, I have a quick add because this could be a topic for another time, and but here, at least in America, at 30 years old, only 27% of young men are married. And 60% of young women are in relationships. And you say, how can this happen? Because women are dating older because they have more maturity, and women want to have children. And so it's a real catastrophe. Like, the birth rate is going down seriously. And young men have been brought up without this self-confidence to be kind of like the man you're kind of describing. And so I certainly want to bring my young man up that way. But it is an interesting fact. And I do think it has kind of transgressed. I don't know if that's the right word, but it has become a thing with a lot of people dating, where men are a little bit shy of getting into a relationship, and really want to open themselves up to one woman, because there is 1,000 women out there that they think they can get, and you never know someone until you open up yourself to them. So, but yeah, the young statistics are really interesting about how young men are really suffering from kind of like the new age stuff. Like they're just like all like we're in their mom's basement playing video games. So that's all. I just want to share that with you. It was a weird statistic, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that even beyond that statistic, right, is the fact that I think that there is a threat to the human race. Why do I say that? Everything that made for the consistency of our race, right? Everything that made for reproduction and just procreation seems to be under attack. It seems like, first of all, men are being made to look like they are not good. There's something fundamentally wrong with them. And so a lot of men are having to deal with esteem issues, having to deal with identity issues, having to deal with father issues, because most times a man is the person that teaches a man how to be a man. It's not easy for a woman to teach a man how to be a man. So you find that men who are raised by women who are single and who don't have a father figure in their lives, they find it difficult to man up and stand up and be a man. So you have that. You have the fact that there's a lot of this whole women's lib ideology, and like women are better. It's better to be a woman. So you have the ones that think that they should change their gender and somehow that would make them better. And of course, they end up losing everything in terms of what they would need to procreate. So you find mindset is being attacked, commitment is being attacked, marriages are being attacked and split up and divorced. People are being there's the ones that are failing at the workplace. There's so much that is going on that I'm thinking, is there a grand plan to wipe out the human race? What is really going on here? I feel like it's
Yeah.
probably conspiracy theory, but there seems to be something that we need to be more aware of. That something is going on that is not normal. And if we just go with
Definitely not the 1950s, right?
Right. Yes, if you compare
Like
us
dad
now,
goes to work, mom comes home, your mom's at home. It's not that anymore.
it's not that anymore. And now it's women contending for the positions that the men had in the office. So maybe that's also part of the problem.
It feels
because
emasculating a little bit, I'm sure.
Exactly. So what is happening? What is really going on? We need to think about it. And
We'll have to do a different episode on that. I'm sorry to bring that up at the end. All right, I'll let you speak.
Can we address Michelle's point, which I think it may allude to what where we are in the conversation? I know we have to go. So, this issue of self-identity versus combined identity and the fear of losing your identity in a marriage is something that obviously that concerns people.
Mhm.
What's your take?
Yeah, I think that in marriage, right? That's a fear that many women especially have, which is that you start to look like, okay, imagine this with me. So my husband is a doctor, and after we got married, we were in a church that people hardly knew me and hardly knew him, but they knew he was a doctor. So when you think about it, they didn't even know his name, but he was called Doctor. And guess what I was called? Doctor's wife. Hey, doctor's wife, welcome. Hey, doctor's wife, good to see you. So I was doctor's wife. Nobody knew what I did. Nobody wanted to know what my name was. I was just doctor's wife. Now, in the first place, he is not even doctor. Like, that's not his name. But people tend to do that, just label you, oh, you're this person's property, stamp, good. Next. Stamp. Good. And sometimes you can feel lost as a woman. You can feel like, but that's not who I am, or that's not all of who I am. There's so much more to me. And if you go with the flow, then halfway down the line, you can think, well, is that all I am? Isn't there more to me? Like, why is this all that people see? Somebody's wife, somebody's mother. But the thing is, I'm curious about Michelle's question because, on one hand, it is one of the things that I am. So I had to get to the point where I realized, wait, I'm okay with being somebody's wife. It's not all that I am, but it's one of the things that I am. And just as I'm okay being called a pharmacist, I'm okay being called an author, I'm okay being called this man's daughter, I should be okay being called this person's wife. There are people who are so not okay being called somebody's wife that they want to stick with their maiden name and they want to be called, no, don't tie me to anybody, just leave me as myself. And the question is, why? Are you fighting something? Is there something deeper? And it may be worth exploring. So there are two extremes on this matter, is what I'm
Well, part of me thinks maybe part of the answer to that, to get rid of these fears or to deal with these fears, is discovering our purpose. I think where he has a purpose, he feels a sense of purpose.
Mhm.
It gives him an identity where she has a purpose, where she has a thing that she does, whatever that looks like. I mean, it helps us develop our self-identity, which can help to buffer against this feeling of losing your identity.
Mm.
And maybe but I think that finding your purpose, I think it goes deeper than just identity. I think it goes into your mindset, the way you think. It goes into your mood. It goes into your feelings. If you're feeling frustrated, as Joni was saying earlier about young men, I'm saying that if you feel frustrated, lost, ignored, then that's not going to change unless only you can change that. Sorry, young man. Only we can change that for ourselves. Is the point. I think we need to work on finding that purpose. That our mission in life, so to speak, our thing, whatever that looks like, right? The thing that gives us joy, helps us help others. I'm in my head is very clear. It's, again, as a young man, I was going around just doing, having a hard life until I found happiness in myself, which I can then share with my family. So until then, I was just a frustrated young man, and that's I think it's a huge issue.
Yeah.
That's why I talk about what I talk about most days, and all that stuff. That's just my take.
Right, Annie. I agree
Yeah.
with you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on, no, please carry on.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. No, I was just saying that I agree with you. And many couples put too much pressure on their spouse, or many individuals in marriage put too much pressure on their spouse because they think that's the person who's going to make me happy. I need you to make me happy, and you're not making me happy. And I came in here so that you will make me happy, and you're not making me happy. And now I need to squeeze happiness out of you because it's your job to make me happy. And the other person is thinking, I haven't even made me happy. How do I make you happy? What are you talking about? It's actually our job to make ourselves happy. You need to find your happiness, and you need to work at it. For each of us, we come with our different interests. We come with our different outlooks on life. We come with our different purposes. God made you for a reason. And it's not all wrapped up in some man or some woman. There's much more. So it's important that we find that and we find fulfillment in that, so that when we get married, we're working together on the things that we are doing, as opposed to hoping this person can be the thing that I'm doing. That person is not the thing. It's just the person is your partner in your journey on this thing that you're doing. So I hope that that also that I think that's a very important point that Annie has raised. Thank you, Annie, for
Thank you, my friends. Who was that? Is that me? Okay, so we do have to go. Now we've been a long time in. I don't want to keep you Saturday evening anymore. There's loads of amazing comments. Mrs. Tolu, sorry, you have to go through the comments and respond. We all can page and do respond to the comments and connect with people there as well. Like I always do. If you're on my YouTube, thank you. I'm so glad you're there. Like today's video, my friends, and comment on today's video. Say no, write a word. I don't care. Write a word or two or three. Emojis. Yeah, I never know how to respond, right? But I said,
see what else? It's still not showing.
It's still not showing on your which one on your YouTube.
Nope, it's not.
But as far as YouTube's concerned, you killed your link, your event.
Right.
We'll learn. We'll practice before we'll come live again next time, my friends. We'll practice.
Sure.
And we'll get it right. We have been there. We have gone out to people today, right? People can see us and hear us. I think it's a great conversation that's important for us to have. Sorry, I'll stop talking.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening as we have talked about fear in marriage. If you have any concerns, you want to have a further conversation on this, you are contemplating marriage, but you have some fears you would like to discuss, you are in marriage and you are afraid of certain outcomes or certain matters that you're confronting, don't hesitate to reach out, send a DM, and I'm happy to support. Okay, so at this point, I think we are done. And
I must thank Kiefer. Kiefer, thank you. I mean that sincerely. I'm not the lone man that normally gets exposed. You're here.
You're welcome, sir. It's good to be here. Good to be here. Very interesting.
Thank you so much.
We can only get better.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Michael, Luz, everyone that's joined us, and Michelle's, Paulette, and there's many more people who joined us. Joni as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Look, join us again in 2 weeks' time. We're going to have another interesting topic now to discuss, I'm sure. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tolu.
All right. Thank you so much.
So we'll say bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks, Tolu. That last part was very good. Very good indeed.